Sit with Lexi B.
How are you, Ashley?
I'm good.
I remember the day that I learned that you existed, and you said something on the internet, and I was like, who is this? And why does she know me so fully? And since then, I've been following you on the interwebs, and I know what you're doing with this platform that you are building is very, very transformative. I know the platform is geared toward parents, but I do want to honor, I think that there's an opportunity here for non-parents, because I do think that everyone wishes they had more time in their day and just had support in doing whatever they do. So thank you for being you and doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Lexi. Yeah, we work with a lot of parents, so we have a good chunk of people who are not parents. And I was mentioning to you earlier that I have not been a parent throughout building this company, and I'm expecting in March. So I think we can hopefully help people in all these categories get more time back for what they love.
And congratulations on that. I also have an Aries baby. And let me tell you, they rough, okay? They gonna rock. Right? These fire signs do not play games. But as I tell my husband and my family, like, she's probably going to rule the world, not getting told off by an almost 1-year-old right now is not the funnest thing. But when she's 25, I want her to have that gusto. So I'm excited. So let's get started. Where are your people from? Where are you from? How did we get here, Ashley?
I'm in California. I grew up in the Bay Area, a little bit south of San Francisco. I was here my whole life. My parents are also actually grew up in the same town that I am from, but I feel like I'm kind of a unique combination of something that only really happens in California usually. I have my dad is Chinese and my mom is Italian, both a couple generations down, but come from very different cultural heritages that I've had the opportunity to mix and choose what I enjoy and get to experience as well.
Tell me more about being a product of intergenerational, intercultural households. And I say that 100% selfishly because I'm currently raising a kid in an intercultural household.
I think like where I came from, I was kind of in a unique situation. At least like my memories of school are like there were all of the white kids and then all the Asian kids, and I was like, I don't know who to sit with. And I think that a lot of like the culture that my parents had was actually like degraded with some like assimilation and to try to fit in over time. Like we still celebrate some different cultural holidays, but I wouldn't say it's like super significant. So that's been interesting as well. But one thing that I think that is really cool is that you grow up feeling a little bit different. I think there's a lot of value to that. Like it can be uncomfortable at times, but I think that's something that and like having a history of doing that successfully is something that I look to a lot as I start my own company and like push myself to do things that are uncomfortable, that I've been in uncomfortable situations before and I've made it through, and we can keep doing that.
So let's talk about your lesson. When we were emailing back and forth, you said, I want to talk about delegation. And that really hit my spirit. Like you just twerked on a nerve, Ashley, because I feel like all my life I've had an issue with delegating, probably because I may or may not have some control issues that I may or may not say out loud. But this idea of delegating, this idea of allowing people in your space to take what you want and to make it better, or just do exactly what you said do, so you have more time to do other things that include just resting, is very transformative. When was the first time while you were building your current company that you realized, I need to delegate or this isn't gonna work?
I think I had attempted to delegate over like different ways, but I was always really strict about it. I was like, here are the instructions, like 1 through 15, and you follow these exactly. What I learned earlier this year is that I really need to like empower people and give them more autonomy over different areas. So I was telling you a story about how I built this company Sundays. I had really been doing pretty much all of the operational work myself. And at some point as we were growing, I was managing like 15 people and doing also like all of our marketing and all of our sales calls myself, and then also planning a wedding. And all those things kind of culminated in me and my body just like rejecting doing that level of work. And I ended up right before my wedding, like getting this terrible ulcer and being like, not being able to sleep at night because I was in so much pain, and like going to the doctor every day. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to miss this wedding that I've been planning, which is obviously a big thing. And just realizing that like I was trying to do too much, and I want, like, I care so much about the business, but if I want the business to work, I need it to work for me and in my life. And so that was the point where I realized that I need to actually learn how to delegate.
Yeah, I think in order the business to thrive, you need to be alive. So I just want to put that foundationally out there. Like, ulcers aren't good. Um, how do you define delegation, though? Because I think people define delegation differently, which can be a great thing. You know, you like it, I love it. How do you define delegation when you started on this journey of like, I can't do everything all at once?
That's a good question. I define delegation as having other people who are executing things on your behalf. And that can vary from like doing that kind of following this list 1 through 10 to them having kind of like the ownership and the um, ability to like think creatively in a space and determine what the best answer is. And then hopefully you're there to like support them in that and guide them towards like success, but giving them a lot more autonomy. So I think there's there's a whole spectrum kind of delegating.
And when you started delegating, right, and started seeing how people interact with that specific type of delegation, it sounds like you probably had a myriad and a spectrum of how you delegated based on the task and based on the human that was doing it. What did you start seeing in your life? Was that helpful? Was it impactful? Why? What was the difference than pre-delegation?
I think the biggest impact for me was just like my stress was reduced a lot, and my to-do list what became something that was like manageable. Even though like a lot of people who are ambitious, I have a to-do list that is always growing, and even going into the holidays, I'm like, oh, there's like all these big projects I wish that I had time to do, but it doesn't feel like the number of things that need to happen today are like overwhelming on any given day. And my approach to figuring out what to delegate was to start by looking at how I was spending my time already. So I basically made a list for, I think, 3 days of like how I would spend my time every like 15 minutes. I'd be like, this is what I'm doing. And then I went through and I ranked how important that was like to either my family or to the business or personal goals. And then how much energy it gave me or sucked from me. And I think what's really interesting is like the things that you want to delegate are not necessarily, it's not always like delegating are the things that actually take away energy. Because even if something's really hard, but it gives you energy, that's going to give you momentum throughout the rest of your day. Versus when you get to these things that are like real energy sucks, they kind of like dive bomb the rest of your day. And so you're like, oh, I'm really reducing the amount of stuff I can accomplish by forcing myself to take on these things I don't enjoy.
I remember I had to learn that hard lesson when I went from like an individual contributor to a manager, and I was doing everything. So I was managing a team of like 7 people, but I was still doing everything. And I had a mentor sit me down and she was like, sis, like, you don't get paid their salaries. And I'm like, yeah, I'm done. Then I'm not going to be a manager anymore. And she literally looked at me and she was like, you can tell them to do the things you hate. No one had told me that before.
Yeah.
It was like this life-changing moment, Ashley, where I was like, wait a damn minute. I can have other people do all the ish that I actually hate. And like I was in a conference room with the company, this is pre-COVID, and she was like, yes, like you can just tell them to do stuff that you know. And I was like, yo, calculus 101. This is the most amazing experience of my life, and how transformative it was. Like taking my jokes aside, being able to really start putting an effort in the things that, number one, that I enjoy doing and the things that I'm actually good at, because you're not good at everything. Tell me about that when you started actually delegating, just like this freeing, liberated experience, if it was for you, of like, yo, I can actually spend my time doing stuff that I like. What? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And the other thing is like the things that you don't like, there are people who like doing them out there. Like, it's not like you're giving something you hate to like force someone to also hate it. Like, they actually might like it. You can find someone who likes it. And so you're actually just like improving everyone's lives by giving that work to someone else, which I think is like a huge mental shift that at least was really impactful for me. The moment that I actually started delegating, I think well, first of all, it was just like such a sigh of relief. Like, I spent, I think, the first half of this year working like just an incredible amount. Like, I was working every day from like 6 a.m. to like, I don't know, I would like take a break for dinner and then keep working. And after I started delegating, I was like able to just work more normal hours. I'm still like a morning person, so I get up pretty early, but I like take my dog for a walk in the evening and then I don't go back on the line. And I think if being able to have a life and build the company that I wanted has been super valuable and sustainable to me, where I'm like, yeah, I've always wanted to build a sustainable company. Like, we intentionally didn't take VC financing because we want to build something that's around for the long term. And we are thinking more about like quality over growth. But it's interesting how sometimes you have these like ideals for the business and then you don't apply them to your own life when that's really what's fueling it. So that was a great lesson for me.
And I think especially as you grow this company, people can't be what they can't see, and people very much like children, Ashley. We're not going to do what you say, they're going to do what you do. And so I do want to applaud this delegation aspect for you as a leader. As people work with you and for you, they see that and then they do it. And that's very, very impactful, I think, especially when it comes to company culture and the times that we're in. Tell me more about how delegation has changed your personal life.
I'm preparing for it to hopefully change it even more going into the next year. But um, just to give everybody context on what Sunday is, the business is, it's an executive assistant service for working parents. So our goal is to give parents more time back, focus time at work, and quality time with their families by taking off like a lot of the life ops admin work that people don't always enjoy doing, and also takes away from that. So a lot of that can be like scheduling dentist appointments or finding like a car repair person for something really specific, things like that. And so I wasn't even delegating those things earlier this year when I was thinking about it. Just kind of had like this never-ending to-do list of personal and business stuff to tackle. In my personal life, what I have done is started to kind of build systems that where I think there's two pieces to it. There's like building a system so that you have repeated things kind of like managed in a way that's under control, and it's not like I have to do this, or like it's not like unpredictable. And then the second thing is like actually getting someone else to do it when you have when you have those things identified. And so I've tried to do both of those things. One example is like we're thinking about moving to Oakland. So doing like a housing search. And I don't know if people are familiar in the Bay Area with how like housing searches renting work, but a lot of it is like done off Craigslist. It's not organized at all, and it just takes a lot of mental space to be like constantly monitoring. So instead, what we've done is like set up a system, like an Excel sheet of all the things that we're looking for, and then my partner and I actually work with someone from Sundays who's like reviewing the listings for us on a regular basis, and then we can look at the ones that are most relevant to us, and it just saves like not only the time of looking at those listings, but the mental work of being like, oh, I got a new email, like always being on alert, which really takes away from your ability to be present and be successful in any of the things you're doing.
Tell me more about delegation and trust. Do those things resonate with you? I don't think delegation is successful 100% if you don't trust the human that you are delegating to. Tell me more about that.
It is really hard, especially as a person who likes control, like we were talking about earlier, and for a long time has been fully in control of these things. Trusting the person that you're working with is so important. I think about it on a few levels. I think there's like a personality fit that is just like, can I talk to this person? Do I get along with them? Are they someone I want to like have in my life? Which is just like the first layer. And then I think there are kind of levels of building trust where I like to start out delegating by giving someone like very clear instructions on something and seeing like, can they follow something that I've laid out for them very clearly? And then starting to level up to things where they have more and more autonomy over that. So it might be like, okay, they did the thing where there were clear instructions very well. Like, let's do something now where they have to make a decision as part of this, or they have to like do a search for me and bring back multiple options. And I think the way that I like to do it is to like give someone parameters and then also designate like clear milestones where you want to check in so that like it's not too far off track. So yeah, for example, if you were doing this housing search or like looking for daycares or something like that, doing a check-in after like 1 or 2 days and being like, okay, there's a bunch of things that you build trust with there, right? It's like, are they looking at all the places that they could be looking? Like, are things being missed? Are they identifying things that feel right to me? And so doing kind of these like check-ins along the way to make sure that something's going well. And then when you get to a place where you have someone with more autonomy, so like we hired someone who is running a lot of our operations team now or running our sales team, or there's more of like a role level definition where they have a lot of like responsibility there. But I want to kind of be able to check in on things like indicators of things going well. So we try to set like metrics there and make sure that we can monitor those on a regular basis and make sure they're trending in the right direction.
I do want to honor as we speak that there is a privilege in being able to have the resources to delegate. So want to put that out there. Asterisk. This is a very privileged conversation. But also moving forward with the conversation, time. So I always tell people, half joking, Ashley, as in I say it in a jovial tone, but I said what I said and I meant what I meant, is that you can always waste my money. I hope you don't, but like waste my money, but do not waste my time because I cannot get it back. And what I've learned in this new journey of mine called delegation, I'm very kindergartner to like your middle school delegation era, right?
Middle school is a compliment. I appreciate it.
I'm starting, y'all. I'm starting, had a baby and I'm like, oh, I can't do this alone. What I've learned is that the amount of time that I get back when I allow people to be great in their roles is so impactful, not only to my mental health, but also to the actual prioritized goals that I want. Tell me more about that. What has your experience been with that?
Getting this time back has been the only way that the business has been able to continue to grow, and the only way that I can imagine being able to start a family and run a business. So I think like very tactically, I told you I have a lot of things on my to-do list now, but like before, this is nothing compared to what it used to be when I wasn't delegating and I had like all of these really big, impactful things that I knew would be big for the business that I just like could not create time for in the day. And I was working really long days, but I couldn't create time for them. And I also, if I did get to them, I was so exhausted that I couldn't put like my energy and creativity into them. And so I think, yeah, those are things you get back. You get back the time to actually focus on it and that focused energy and creativity and good problem solving. That is probably what drove you to your role today. And also I think being able to actually be like more interested in the work you're doing is a big thing too, because as you can hand things off to other people, you can focus more on like the areas that are most interesting to you or areas that you don't know how to do things. I think great things to delegate are things that you do know how to do and know what success looks like. And then it's, in my experience, has been easier to take or more interesting to take on like the more unknown work that I have to kind of figure out and put more mental work into.
I'm going to ask you, I think, a very controversial question, which is about work-life balance. Or as I like to say, work-life balance is not a thing. But for the sake of this conversation, that's the term that we're going to use that I really hate. Because not only are you on your own delegation journey, you're also growing your family. You're also building a thing that helps people delegate and manage their time better. What are your thoughts on work-life balance? Is it a thing? Do you think it exists? How do we navigate that as humans in a world where hustle culture is real? I feel like 5 years ago, hustle culture was like the in thing. And now it's like, no. hustle culture is bad. Call your therapist, but secretly hustle. Like that's and right? Like don't talk about it. Health is wealth. But if you don't do it, you won't be successful, but still do it, right? What are your thoughts on work-life balance?
It's such a tough topic because of exactly what you just said. Like, I think that it does take a lot of hard work to create things in the world, and I think that that is admirable. But I also think that there are a lot of other important things going on in our lives, and it's hard to make like a prescriptive definition for anyone else. I think it is really individual and what is working for you and your people and kind of defining that. And I think that it also fluctuates over time. So, for example, when I was saying I was working hard, really hard earlier this year, like that was a good time for my family for me to be able to do that because we don't have a kid yet. And we are like, I mean, it wasn't that good for me personally in the end because I was not feeling physically great. But I think that kind of things go ebb and flow and understanding that like it's not really a balance, but it is like making time for the things that you want, and you have to define what your priorities are yourself at any given time. And it's hard to like look outwardly to know what those are because we do have all of these kind of mixed definitions of what success should look like for how you balance work and life. And it's really interesting. I've interviewed, I think was telling you like, I don't know, I've probably interviewed over 1,000 parents at this point about like how they like I always put it in quotes like balance work and life, and almost everyone's like, oh, we don't balance it. Sometimes people are like, we have this term of integration at my company, and I think that's interesting too. I think that talking about it is important, and so I'm glad that some companies are highlighting that maybe it's not a balance. Maybe there are different ways that we can think about it. If you want both of these things, you have to think about how they fit into your life in a long-term way, and then understand that like we all go through different phases and seasons of when there are different priorities.
How do you prioritize?
That is a good question. I've been doing a lot of prioritization the last couple of weeks. I just did this really fun exercise actually called calendar on the wall. I don't know if anybody's like a nerd like me, you like literally print out the whole year on the wall, and then you like I have all these sticky notes on my desk. Like you take sticky notes and you like put different priorities
For the whole year?
for the year. Yeah, and it starts with like what days are going to take off. Like first block out days for rest and like making sure that you prioritize those days, and then go backwards and like add the other things that you want around that, and then there's also like a goal planning section of it. But when I prioritize, I like to think of like what's my my one long-term goal. So building Sundays for most of this year, our goal was like to be able to pay ourselves to keep working on this, honestly. And so that was like, okay, we want to be able to make enough money that we can pay ourselves. And that was and we made it, which was like a big accomplishment in my mind. So now we can be around for the long term, but I like to have like one kind of North Star goal and then work backwards from there of like what are the smaller goals that I think lead to that. And usually when I think about it in terms of my life, I kind of like bucket those into different areas. And the big ones are like work and family for me right now, but other areas are like friendships, community, health, things like that. And then set actual goals in each of those areas. And then on you can do it for the whole year if you want to be ambitious. I did it for the year, but I'm sure it will evolve over time. But then also on like a monthly basis, I'll be like, okay, what am I trying to actually make happen this month? And that forces me to look at what my time actually looks like in the month. So one thing that I started doing maybe like a year ago was I used to set all these goals and then be like, okay, I have 10 goals. I'm going to do all of them. But then not actually look at like, what does that take in the day to accomplish? And so now I try to go one step further and be like, okay, if I'm going to like, I think we met from me posting on LinkedIn, which has been a big investment this year. But like posting on LinkedIn means I spend probably like 30 or 45 minutes every day on LinkedIn stuff. And so like I need to actually block that out in my day because that's time that I need to dedicate towards this goal.
Ashley, you're posting daily on LinkedIn?
I post on most weekdays.
Ashley out here doing the good work. I was like, I can give y'all a once a week thoughtful phrase. But okay, you're doing the good work.
But just like anything that you want to accomplish, it's going to take time out of your day. So just like actually thinking about what is the time that's going to go into that and blocking that out, because realistically, most of us can't accomplish 10 goals in 1 month. So like you only have so much time in your day. So you have to prioritize based off of what's most important, and do I have enough time? Like, how many of these things do I actually have time to dedicate to?
So what are the goals in 2025, if you can share? What are the shareable goals?
One of my biggest goals is, well, our biggest goal is to be able, we're paying ourselves, we would like to be able to pay ourselves closer to like market rate, and then also to bring on some other people on our team to like support other roles. For me personally, as I'm having this baby, a big goal is to get myself out of like the day-to-day, being required in the day-to-day to run the business. So have other people who have responsibilities or roles and coverage over kind of like all these key areas. So I've been like handing off one by one, like different areas, like operations to one person, and like sales, and hopefully marketing to someone. So that's my big goal to figure out by March, which I think is possible, but also is a lot. And then we have like more tactical goals of like what we think will get us to different revenue numbers. And then personally, my biggest goal, I feel like there's so much unknown in this next phase of life that it's hard to be like, oh, I want to set this very specific goal. But I think I'm just trying to be open to growth, and letting myself like become a mother and figure out what that means. And then the only like real personal goal I have is to like maintain my relationship with my partner through that, because I know it can be really challenging, and figure out ways to help us grow together.
As you start sitting into this new phase of your life, that you do take time, and I call this, this is the pot calling the kettle black, because I have not taken this time, so just FYI, to start getting comfortable with the new you, because I think that's been the hardest part for me, is like, this is not who I am, and then my family's like, it is now. It's definitely a thing on a daily basis. So just this very interesting journey of getting comfort in the discomfort that I like shed a skin that will never come back. And that doesn't mean elements of it won't come back, but like the person that I was, and that is okay. Yes. I pray that you take the time to transform.
It's something I've been thinking about a lot, but also that's the thing about transforming. There's no clear way to do it.
Last question for you. Reintroduce yourself to us. Who are you?
I am Ashley Chang, and I am learning how to be my best.
Thank you so much for being here and being your best. You were fabulous.
Thank you so much, Lexi. This was so fun.